Can we re-talk about Bokurano? Because I want the audience to know about Bokurano.
Yeah. Not enough people have seen Bokurano, unfortunately.
It's one of those shows where it's not the best show, but it's a very important one that I think people should watch.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to describe that
It's very
eloquently.
disturbing, but not for like the conventional reason for it being disturbing.
Yeah.
Right?
So what Bokurano is about is there's these group of kids.
This is going to sound awesome, by the way.
Yeah. No, because it sounds like an Evangelion ripoff.
It really does.
Yeah.
Because there's these group of kids, and then I think they're on their school trip or something. It's been a while since I've
They're
seen
on a school
it.
trip.
Yeah, and then they find this. All I remember is they find this cave with a talking head or something like that.
No, so there's a guy in a cave, and
Yeah.
he's like a middle-aged man working on like a PC in a cave.
Right.
It's really weird setup.
Yeah.
And he basically asked them, do you want to play a game?
Would you like to play a game?
Which, anyone asking you that ever with a bunch of kids is an immediate no. And then I think they all get on a scale or something. They all take turns. He measures them, and then, they whatever happens. And then suddenly they go outside, or it happens later on in that evening.
Yeah.
Because we get to know these characters a little bit. There's like, how many kids is there? 12?
It's like 12, 13.
Yeah.
Something like that,
Something
around
like
that many kids. And then they get teleported into this huge mech, and there's this scary floating head that's like talking to them. And one of the children has to pilot the mech. And now we're going to go into spoilers a little bit. But it's episode 1. So I'm going to spoil the premise a little bit to you. But so one of the kids pilots the mech, and they're fighting another mech, and it's to save the world that they're told from this floating head character. Very intimidating character. So they win the battle. Hooray, they all win. They all celebrate, and they go outside. They stand on the mech, and then one of the kids just drops dead and falls off the mech. Then they find out that each time this mech comes back and they're summoned, one of the kids has to pilot the mech, and when they do, they're going to die immediately after.
Yeah.
But it's to save the world.
Yeah. And what the real beauty of this show isn't really the mech battles or the mech fights. It's more of the fact that these kids who have to pilot the mech to save the world, it's basically kind of like a Monster of the Week kind of show, right? Where every week a new monster comes along, and another kid from that group has to pilot the mech. But it's about the backstory of each of the kids and just having to deal with the fact that they're gonna die.
Yeah,
they're just gonna die.
And in like really realistic ways as well. Like these characters are very believable.
It makes me like uncomfortable, even like thinking back to like the emotions it brought out in me. Like I get like very like, you know what I mean? It's a really, really brutally honest look into like the human condition and life, and especially how it's, a lot of these kids from a lot of different backgrounds. Some of them have it easier. I remember there's one kid who's the stereotypical piece of shit. His dad's spoiled,
of
right?
course.
Yeah, right. But there's some of the kids, who I think there's one kid who's like 16 or whatever, and he's looking after his two siblings.
Yeah.
And it's brutal because he's the one who's raising his two sisters, I think.
Yeah.
And it's horrible seeing him have to like come to terms with that he's not going to be able to look after his sister. It's really brutal.
It's something that just disturbs you on like a level that you can't really describe.
It's so raw. It's so realistic.
No filters whatsoever.
And it's something that really was like not many people have watched. It's something that was really glossed
It's uncomfortable.
over.
It's really uncomfortable to have to like sit down and sit through.
I admit I definitely like did not watch it when it was first came out. Like I definitely gave it some time.
It's definitely not like, yo, did you watch the last episode? Like
hype, but like because I think the problem with Bokurano and the reason why so many people didn't watch it when it came out is because the way that they marketed it was not that good, not that accurate. A lot of people are like, oh, it's a mecha. Must just be an Evangelion ripoff.
There's no world where it's like the #1 anime because it's just too uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah.